Well, here's the good housing news. Americans are buying more homes, about 6.8% more homes in April, to be exact. Here's the bad news, however. Fewer are actually doing any of the buying because the overall home ownership rate is now the lowest it's been in a quarter century. The Real Estate Watch's Tim Rood and Jason Meister on whether that could be a problem. Mr. Meister, you think it could be?
I actually think that the homeownership rate is going to drop even lower before.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I think that if you look historically at homeownership rates in this country, prior to World War II, we were well below 50%. And from the 50s through the 90s, we were pretty much flat in the low 60% range. It was when the Community Reinvestment Act came into effect and we were pushing this affordable home ownership policies where we drove the homeownership rate above, around 70%. So I think it needs to settle back.
To what?
I think it's going to drop just a little bit lower, probably into the high 50%, where I think 62,
right,
63% range.
Well, if that happens, Tim, we have more to go. Then what?
Well, if the home ownership rate falls a little bit, it can't be a good thing. I mean, I can handle maybe a point or two drop. You got to remember that every 1% drop in the home ownership rate is 1 million households that are now renting. And those renters are paying more on a monthly basis, and they really are not saving anymore, and they're certainly not building any wealth. So I think that's a cautionary tale. This whole concept around the Community Reinvestment Act and these goals that were driven by housing policy experts as really this false narrative that killed the housing market. I think most people in the industry recognize it was really deregulation of Wall Street and the banks, where, it's kind of like that scene from Animal House when they said, you messed up, you trusted us. Well, the government trusted that these guys wouldn't do things that would be outside their self-interest.
Nevertheless, whenever we want to look at what caused that, we do know the fallout from that is that people are leery to buy.
I just don't understand what Tim's saying. I don't understand, Tim. Why do we feel the need to make homes more affordable? I don't just if you can answer that question for me. I don't quite get it. I mean, I understand if the government wants to make sure there's no asbestos, if there's hot and cold water, housing is safe. You can rent a home or you can own a home and you still put a roof over your head. So you have to explain to me why we feel
What if the rents are going out of whack?
Well, the rents are going out of whack. That's a little bit of a different issue. The rents are going out of whack because the laws are too damn stupid. But that's for another time.
Well, that's his deregulation point. But Tim, what do you make of that?
I want to be on that segment too. Here's what I would say is that this isn't about fairness. This is about macroeconomics. And it's a little bit of situational awareness, right? This isn't an ideal circumstance that we find ourselves in terms of helping or subsidizing borrowers to get into homes. But it's important because, again, the wealth creation opportunity from home ownership doesn't exist elsewhere. And the fact that rents are going up and disposable income of a renter is going down, that's bad macroeconomics. That's money in a consumption-based society.
So real quickly, Tim, are you optimistic for housing that this turnaround is real or not?
I'm cautiously optimistic. You can't paper over the fact that you're going to need fundamental strength in the economy for a housing market to work, whether it's 3% interest rates or 8%.
I think that there's positives and negatives, but I think that, again, going back to what we've been doing, which is the 3% down payments, once again, we're with no skin in the game, I think it's a place where we don't want to be. It creates housing bubbles.
Gentlemen, I want to thank you both. In the meantime,